This is a dramatized story inspired by real debt situations. For educational and entertainment purposes only. Not legal or financial advice.
$79,000. That was the number staring back at me on a spreadsheet I made at 2 a.m, sitting alone in my truck in the driveway, too ashamed to go inside. At 43 years old, I had a job most guys would envy. Construction foreman, union wages, good benefits. My wife Karen worked part-time as a dental assistant. We had 2 kids, Lily, who was 9, and Marcus, who was 12. We had a house in suburban Ohio with a mortgage we could just barely handle. From the outside, we looked fine. From the inside, I was drowning. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part nobody tells you. Debt like this doesn't fall on you like a tree. It creeps up like water, slowly, quietly, until one day you look down and you're already neck deep. It started 6 years earlier, right after Marcus was born, and we bought the house. The mortgage was $1,640 a month, tight but manageable. Then my truck died. Needed a new one for work, couldn't show up to a job site without a reliable vehicle. Took out a $34,000 auto loan, monthly payment $580. Then Karen had a gallbladder surgery. Insurance covered most of it, but we still owed $4,200 out of pocket. Put it on a credit card. We'll pay it off next month, I told myself. We didn't. Then there was the slow bleed of everyday life. A broken furnace, braces for Marcus, a family vacation we couldn't afford but put on plastic anyway because I couldn't stand telling my kids we couldn't go. Every single time I told myself it was temporary. Every single time the balance got a little bigger. By the time I was 43, the breakdown looked like this. 2 credit cards, one with a $23,400 balance at 24% interest, one with $18,700 at 19%, a personal loan I took out to consolidate some of that debt 2 years earlier, except I never stopped using the cards. That loan balance, $14,200. My truck loan still had $9,800 left on it. And then there was the IRS debt. The year I did some freelance consulting on the side, I underpaid my taxes. I didn't realize until they sent me a notice. By the time I set up a payment plan, I owed $13,100 between principal and penalties. Total, $79,200. And Karen had no idea, not $1 of it. I handled all the finances, always had. I paid the bills, I managed the accounts, I rerouted the mail. Karen trusted me completely. That trust was the weight I carried heavier than the debt itself. Then, in March, the job site shut down. Our company had been contracted on a large commercial project downtown. Financing fell through on the developer's end. Nothing we did, nothing we could control. Just like that, the project was on hold indefinitely. And because I was hourly, even as a foreman, I was hourly, no work meant no paycheck. They told us it could be 2 weeks. It ended up being 4 months. The first week, I told Karen it was just a short delay. No big deal, babe. I've got some savings. I didn't have savings. I had a checking account with $1,100 in it. I started doing odd jobs. Weekend gigs, helping a buddy with a remodel, anything to bring in cash, but it wasn't close to enough. My monthly debt minimum payments alone were $1,890. Add the mortgage, utilities, groceries, the car insurance. We needed $5,400 a month just to stay above water. I was bringing in maybe $2,000. The credit card call started in week 6. First, it was automated messages, then real people. I'd step outside to take them or let them go to voicemail and delete them before Karen could hear. I told myself I was protecting her. Really, I was protecting myself from the conversation I was terrified to have. I remember one night. It was a Wednesday, kids were in bed, Karen was watching TV. I was sitting at the kitchen table pretending to look at my phone. A collection agency called. Third time that week. I watched the name flash on my screen and just let it ring. Karen looked over. "Who keeps calling so late?" I said. "Just a guy from the union." She nodded and went back to her show. I went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub with the door locked, and I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like someone was standing on it. I was 43 years old, and I felt like a complete failure, like everything I'd spent 2 decades building was about to collapse, and the worst part was that I'd done it to myself. I started making the wrong moves, the kind of moves you make when you're panicking and not thinking straight. First, I took a payday loan. I want $500 to cover the minimum payments and buy another month. The fee was $225. That's a 390% annual interest rate. I didn't think about the math. I just needed the calls to stop for a few weeks. Then I did a balance transfer, moved $8,000 from the high-interest card to a new card that had a 0% promotional period for 12 months. I told myself I had a plan. I didn't have a plan. I just had 12 months until it got worse. Then I did the thing that still makes me sick to think about. I raided my 401k. I withdrew $9,000. After the 10% early withdrawal penalty and taxes, I netted about $6,500. I told myself it was an emergency. I told myself I'd pay it back. What I didn't fully understand until later was that not only did I lose that money and the decades of compound growth it represented, but the IRS considered it taxable income, which meant I was about to owe even more in taxes the following year. I was digging the hole deeper with every shovel. The day it broke open was a Tuesday morning in July. Karen had taken the day off. I was out front working on a side job, and she was inside. The mail came. Usually I got there first. That day, I didn't. She was standing in the kitchen when I walked in, holding 3 envelopes, one from a collection agency, one from the IRS, one final notice from the credit card company warning of potential legal action. She didn't yell. That almost made it worse. She just stood there, very still, and said, "How long?" I tried to talk. Nothing came out. "How long, Daniel?" I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd been lying to her for years, and I told her everything, all of it. Every number, every choice, every time I'd deflected or covered or pretended. It took 45 minutes. She cried. I cried. Marcus heard us from upstairs and came down, and Karen sent him back up, and I sat there feeling like the floor should open and swallow me. But here's what I didn't expect. When I was done talking, Karen sat across from me and said, "Okay, we have to fix it. Together." That was the turning point. Not because the debt was gone. It wasn't. But because I stopped carrying it alone. That night, Karen and I sat down together for the first time and looked at the real numbers, all of them. We wrote everything out. It was brutal. But something about seeing it on paper, in the open, shared, made it feel less like a monster hiding in the dark. The next morning, Karen called her sister, who had gone through a rough financial patch a few years back. Her sister mentioned a nonprofit credit counseling agency she'd used, one affiliated with the NFCC, the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. No sales pitch, no fees up front. Just a real counselor who looked at your full situation. I made an appointment for that Friday. I walked in expecting to be judged. Instead, a counselor named Patricia handed me a yellow legal pad and said, "Let's just get everything on paper first. No pressure. No decisions today." We spent an hour going through everything. Patricia was straight with me, not soft. She said the payday loan was the most urgent thing. She called it a fire on top of a fire. She explained our options clearly. She said we had a few paths: debt consolidation through a debt management plan, which her agency could help set up, 1 monthly payment, reduced interest rates negotiated with creditors, typically over 3 to 5 years. No new debt, strict budget, but no court involvement and less credit score damage than other options. Or we could speak with a bankruptcy attorney. She explained the 2 main types. Chapter 7. Bankruptcy, which can discharge most unsecured debt, credit cards, personal loans, relatively quickly, usually within 3 to 6 months, but it requires passing a means test based on income, and it stays on your credit report for 10 years. Chapter 13. Bankruptcy is different. It's a repayment plan over 3 to 5 years. You keep more of your assets, and it typically comes off your credit report in 7 years. Given that we had a house we wanted to keep, Patricia said Chapter 13 was worth exploring seriously with a licensed bankruptcy attorney. She also flagged the IRS debt separately. IRS debt doesn't disappear in bankruptcy the way credit card debt does. There are specific rules about when and whether it can be included, and she strongly recommended we contact a tax professional alongside whatever debt path we chose. She reminded me, and I'm reminding you now, that every situation is different. What worked for us may not be right for you. Always consult a licensed financial or legal professional before making any decisions about bankruptcy, debt settlement, or credit counseling. One thing Patricia said that I've never forgotten. She said, "Your credit score is a number. It can be rebuilt. What matters right now is stopping the bleeding." Our FICO score at that point was around 574. Not destroyed, but seriously damaged. She told us realistically, with a consistent plan, we could be back above 680 within 3 to 4 years. We decided to start with the debt management plan for the credit cards and personal loan, while we consulted a bankruptcy attorney about the IRS debt specifically. We also set up a strict monthly budget. And for the first time, Karen was part of every single decision. That was 8 months ago. The job site reopened in September. I went back full-time. Karen picked up extra shifts. We stopped eating out, canceled 3 subscriptions, and sold my old motorcycle that had been sitting in the garage for 2 years for $3,400, which went straight to the payday loan to close it out. We're not out. I want to be honest with you. We're not out. The debt management plan runs 4 years. The IRS payment plan runs 3. Our credit score is still recovering. We still have hard months. But the calls stopped. The secret is gone. Karen and I are in the same room, looking at the same numbers, for the first time in years, and our kids don't know anything was ever wrong, which means we did one thing right. If you are sitting somewhere right now with a number you're ashamed of, I want you to hear this. The number is not who you are. The shame is the worst part, and the shame gets smaller the moment you say the number out loud to someone who can help. You don't have to figure this out alone. There are real people, credit counselors, bankruptcy attorneys, nonprofit agencies, whose entire job is to look at that number with you and help you find a way through. Get the free debt checklist linked in the description below. It's the exact list of questions I wish I'd had before I made those wrong moves. And if this story sounded familiar, hit subscribe. We have more of these every week.